Mrs. Jinsela, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and for that introduction, Mohammed. Yeah, it was such an honor to be invited to talk here and just build more international solidarity, you know. I'm not coming here to pretend I am an expert about African militarization. I am not. But what I can talk about is how our British, specifically, military systems and the continued support for the arms trade within our education systems bounces onto affecting the military situation in Africa. So yeah, I'm not sure. Do you want me to just do my whole talk now, or should we wait a bit more for Francis?
You can go ahead with your talk. You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can go ahead. Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, let me start by fully introducing what we do at Demilitarized Education. And yeah, I'm really excited for you all to be here as well. If you're confident enough to put your camera on so we can see each other, that would be amazing. Please do that. And if not, just feel free to write any comments or questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll try and keep up with it and keep it as a conversation. So demilitarized education, how did we start? Basically, every other year, London hosts one of the world's biggest arms fairs. And it was at this arms fair that I had my mind really open to the levels of corruption that British arms exports were running on. And yeah, like just relating it to this talk, like we know that some of the military training that the Nigerian police force, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, aka SARS, many of you remember the massive protests in 2020 that happened because of the violence that the SARS police force in Nigeria were enforcing on their own people. And we know that it is actually the British military that train those police force, as well as some of our arms and police machinery and military machinery being exported to Nigeria for the use of these oppressive forces. So yeah, when I was looking and I discovered, it was also a massive shock to me that the UK was selling arms to over 18 of the countries that they deem on their human rights watch list. So you can imagine me as a student, like absolutely shocked that not only would they be going against their own policy on human rights and guidelines, but they would be willingly exporting arms to countries that are at war or in oppressive situations. So this is why we decided that we would set up demilitarized education, because there is a massive movement within our universities, whether it's for the climate justice, whether it's for human rights, anti-racism, refugee support. All of these grassroots communities absolutely thrive in the university space. But the issue comes with the fact that students are in a constant rollover system. So what that means is that every few years, all the hard work that students have been putting in to try and work for peace and demilitarization and divestment within these spaces is often lost, because by the time they've found someone to take on their campaign, it's a very, very difficult task to be able to then teach them everything you know. So what we have done is we have set up DEAD, aka Demilitarized Education, as an almost central database that students can use to compare their campaigning tactics, to see all the research that they have collected whilst campaigning, and therefore have a stronger base and foundation for working for a world where universities aren't investing in the arms trade, but are actually investing in peace. Now, I might have got a bit ahead of myself. So let me just explain in what ways universities are connected to the arms trade. First and foremost, it's investments. So this is a great point because it kind of reflects on the military industrial complex in general. You know, why is British militarism affecting African militarism? Well, as you know, nobody's probably going to be surprised with this answer, but it's profit. We like to think about our security systems and so on as actually being systems that keep us safe, right? It comes under the name security, whereas what we really see is a war economy where there's been so much focus put into our military ideals of security that there's this dystopian relationship where the more that we are investing in our military and defense sector, the more profitable it becomes to continue investing in that and supporting those companies. And therefore, the cycle of needing a military and looking at war as something which is kind of essential part of our security just happens naturally because nobody's willing to lose the money or the profit that they could gain from continuing that system of oppression. So it means that we have decisions being made based on what these private companies are talking to our governments about, which of course then doesn't reflect the real security needs, such as human security. We still have poverty here in the UK, we still have homelessness, we still have massive health crises. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but during the pandemic, the government actually increased their defense budget from 40 billion by an extra 16 billion. So we're talking about 56 billion pounds. And at the very same time, they were refusing to give school children free dinners. Somehow we have this never-ending pocket available for our defense and security needs, yet we don't have the funds to properly secure human security, you know, meaning children don't go hungry. So investment, yeah, is just, we can see the direct relationship of just suddenly our education systems, who are so forthcoming with creating a sustainable future and safe spaces, are willingly investing in companies which obviously create mass destruction across the world, particularly in war zones, mass environmental damage, and also keep a very small proportion of people very rich. So yeah, investments. The second way is research. Arms companies will come to students and universities and will say, we want to conduct this research, we will pay for your studies, and therefore it's a win-win situation. Of course, what this really means is student labor is then being used to advance our weaponry and our defense sector, when we all know that there is much more important things that our students could be using their brilliant minds to develop. And the third key aspect that we look at is the careers link. So if you go to a careers fair at a university in the UK, you're very likely to see an arms company with a stall, and they'll be promoting their, you know, job opportunities. And for many engineers or whoever it may be, these are the best paying graduate schemes you can get. They're the most structured, they're the most present within these spaces, because of course, if you're not doing so well financially, it's very hard for an organization that might be building peace, for example, to take the day off work and come and promote their careers within universities in a systemic manner, you know, because they will go across all sorts of universities. So this is why we have completely focused our energy on working on ways we can break universities' ties with the arms trade, because we truly believe that education should be a tool used to better the world for everybody, and not just a tool that is used to better the most profitable industries at this current time. So yeah, how do we do this? We have founded the world's first university and arms specific database, and we're currently working with Save the Children to build up a series of meetups where we will teach you and anybody else, our focus is on students, to research their university's involvement in the arms trade and add it to our database. And it is with this collective information that we can put pressure on universities to sign the Demilitarization Treaty and start to divest from arms companies and instead invest in peace development. Whew. So this is like the kind of 101 on how universities are in fact militarized. Now, what I want to just talk about briefly, hopefully I haven't been talking too long, but is the myths that surround the arms trade as well, and how this affects militarism in Africa. So right now we are busy building a video series, which is based off the book Indefensible: 7 Myths That Sustain the Global Arms Trade. Here is myth 1. I've just put it in the chat. But basically, one of our mentors and a member of our advisory board here at Demilitarized Education actually worked, he's South African, and he worked with Nelson Mandela before he was arrested. And he actually ended up having to leave the South African government because he was so disgusted by the fact that in 1999, during the AIDS and HIV pandemic, the South African government decided it was a great time to completely revamp their defense systems, which meant that they ended up taking bribes and spending 3 billion, let me just check my figure. Yeah, 3 billion pounds of South Africa's money on new warships, new helicopters, and machinery. Now, what is so disgusting about this, and why our mentor ended up leaving government during this time, is the fact that if that money had been spent not on arms in the military, but actually spent on HIV and AIDS treatment, they could have fully funded the treatment of every HIV infected person in the country for 12 years. It's just crazy how much positive impact that money could have been spent, that money could have achieved. But instead, it was spent on machinery that is, some of it is just sat there and hasn't been used to this day. And we know that if it had been used, it would have been used in destructive purposes. So another thing to think about is that that same 3 billion pounds that was spent on war machinery during the HIV pandemic could have built 2 million houses. It also could have built a library in every school in the country, fully stocked it with books, and employed a librarian in each library for over 20 years. Now, BAE Systems is the UK's biggest arms company, and they have been put under a lot of scrutiny for the corruption and bribes that they're constantly persuading governments like the South African government during the HIV pandemic to buy our weapons. And this is one of the key myths that we like to discuss in just reflection of the West being the global arms exporter. Yet for some reason, there's a lot of illusion or shadow within the topic around where the corruption actually happens. And you can think about it in that case of the South African government spending all this money on weaponry when it's so needed elsewhere as corruption, and it is. However, we can't forget the Western influence and the bribes that that British arms company, Bae Systems, benefited from by persuading that government to make that deal. So yeah, that's one of the key myths of just around just how the corruption that may be happening within the African environment right now is very much a reflection of the corruption happening in the arms trade in the West. We have research from CIPRI as well, which shows that 40% of all corruption globally happens within the global arms trade. So that's another great figure for us to understand just how insecure our arms exporters and defense sectors are, and how this privatized environment and relationship that particularly British arms companies have with Africa is riddled in corruption and is not making us safer. So yes, I think I will leave it at that, and I look forward to any questions anyone has.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jinsela. The figure you actually gave is so shocking. We are still coming back to you. We are still coming back to you. There are still some other things you are still going to share with us. But before I go on to call Professor Francis, I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Corazon Fabros. She is the current Vice President of International Peace Bureau. The story of Center for Peace Building Organization will not be complete without making reference to International Peace Bureau, because it was after their peace congress last year, the peace congress that was held last year at Barcelona. It was after that peace congress that we decided to bring up. I decided to propose the idea of setting up Center for Peace Building Organization, and we have been working hand in hand with some other organizations. So International Peace Bureau, we really recommend them. They have been doing so well in terms of promoting peace in the world, and we look up to them as mentor, and we draw inspiration from them, from the work they do. Then I think I will also, there's Dr. Yuri Shelesianko. So he's also a peace advocate too. So here with us. He's one of the board members of Beyond War. I think we are still going to he's still going to make some contribution to this our topic here, because I think the last workshop, the last online workshop I did, he spoke well about militarization, and I would like him to shed a little light on that. But before he does that, I would like to know if Professor Francis is around. Professor Francis, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm there, my brother.
Okay,
yes, I'm
that's
available.
good. That's good. That's good. I've done a little introduction to the participants while you were not around. So I think I will do it again, so that some of us that are just joining us will know more about you, and what you have been doing, the aspect of peace building. Now, Professor Francis Meta Birofo is a peace advocate whose principal proportion uniquely takes origin from his training and teaching of African language while using comparative perspective. He's a professor of language, literature, and culture. His peace building initiative is rigorously anchored upon drawing attention to African people's shared communalistic ethos. He believes that it is critical to remind Africans that they are blood brothers and sisters, and it is in so doing a vivid demonstration of this fact through language will help reduce discrimination and incidents of conflict, thereby inversely increasing the uptake of the peace initiatives, especially among youths who constitute Africa's critical mass now and the future. Professor Francis has also been a very he has been a very good contributor to our organization, Center for Peace Building Organization. Each time we reach out to him, he has always been there to give us one or two things that will really help uh, propel our organization forward. And we decided to call him to share his views on this aspect of militarization in Africa. So, Professor Francis, I think you can have the stage now. You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother, Mohammed Abu Bakr. Yes, you've just heard, my name is Francis. Do not really worry so much about these titles, professor and what have you. As you'll discover, the professor knows very little about militarization or peace. My dear brothers and sisters, I sincerely most believe in spirituality, but I wouldn't talk about spirituality here because I know many people are not really very easily persuaded by things that are religious, by things that are spiritual. But let me say this. I think through my brother, Mohammed, I am being drawn into something which I had not closely paid attention towards, but which I think God has a reason why I am being drawn into this thing through my brother Abu Bakr, for which I'm very grateful. As you'll discover in my talk, you'll notice that I'm very green in these matters, but I'll speak from my heart and I'll speak sincerely in terms of what I think, where the problem is and where we must go as Africa. We are talking this in the context of peace. And I just say, I ask myself to say, what is peace? And when I looked at it, of course, I've also been reading around a bit to familiarize myself with this subject. And to me, peace is not necessarily the absence of war, although in most cases we think of peace in terms of war because war really devastates utterly, the presence of peace. But I think when you look at peace, to me, I think it is mental security from anxiety, from fear, from worry, from instability. To me, that is what peace really amounts to. And there are so many things that can interfere with a people's peace. And of course, war is the greatest of them all, is the worst of all evils that you can think of in terms of, the absence of, this is the total absence of peace. And therefore, when we talk of, when we look at war, we seem to think that, we think, and I think rightly so, that it is a total absence of peace. There is anxiety, there is worry, there is death, callous death, and there is callousness. But again, I was looking at what really do we mean by militarization. I consulted Wikipedia, and it is basically saying, even as you can Google yourself, militarization is the process by which a society organizes itself for military conflict and violence. All right. And when you talk of violence, Africa has been an epicenter of violence. Even when we the whole history, the whole modern history, is full of incidents of wars and violence from the slave trade itself, from times of slavery. Even before slavery, our own polities were established through wars, internation wars, inter-ethnic wars. Sometimes we tend to romanticize Africa and we think that, conflicts started as a result of colonization. This is not true. Even before colonization, we had wars. Africans are people just like any other people throughout the world. There have been wars throughout human history. Even when you look at classical, when you do classical studies, these like Peloponnesian wars, Alexander the Great and Ganges, all there are these wars which are, there are so many of them. But in Africa, let me just fast forward. We had the nightmare of colonization. And of course, this was followed by the need to rid ourselves of the colonial yoke, of colonial subjugation. And in most cases, this was not achieved through talks, or there were wars. I am Zimbabwean, right? And there was war, military conflict. There was the first Chimurenga, 1893, 1894, the Anglo-Ndebele War, which was then followed in 1896, 1897 by the Chimurenga uprising, Umvukela uprising. That was war, and we call that the second Chimurenga. The first Chimurenga. Then afterwards, after about 90 years of colonization, we became independent in 1980, following a protracted guerrilla war. That was violence. Maybe we should distinguish between righteous wars, justified wars, and wars that are not justified. For example, if you're looking at what is happening now between Russia and Ukraine, if Ukraine is defending itself through military action, to me, I feel that that is a justified war. But does it, is there any peace in war, whether justified or not justified? There is no peace. And I think the problem which we have in Africa now, even if you look at the coups that have been taking place, if you look, I was just looking through these documents and I realized that we had the first coup that should have been in Togo, in Sudan, 1958. And I was just reading a source here to say that by 1987, the writer was saying only 12 countries out of 52 have been spared coups. And he actually, I laughed when he mentioned Zimbabwe as one of those countries. I think we had our type of coup on the 17th of November, 2017, when President Mugabe was removed from power. Maybe we can call it a soft coup or whatever you call it. Well, it was a bloodless coup, but all the same, it was a coup. Of course, we've also had worse coups in other parts of Africa where blood was shed. And wherever there is a war, wherever there is fighting, as we all know, there can never be peace. Whether it's Biafra, whether it's whatever, whether it's in Mali at the moment, wherever there is fighting, wherever there is the cracking of a gun, wherever there is the use of heavy artillery and what have you, there is no peace. So the point is to say the niche which I intend to take in my initiative, for which you are partakers, for which you are also advisors, because this is something which I am just starting, and you should really be frank with me and say, Francis, just leave it. It won't work. But look, I'm a professor, or I'm a lecturer of African languages, particularly Bantu languages, and I am into comparative Bantu linguistics. Now, how does this come in? What I have noticed over the years is this one thing to say, when you look at Bantu Africa, from Cape Town, the closer people, right up to, to say to Uganda, right up to Kenya, these languages, they appear very different in terms of their phonology, the sound system. But when you look deep down, when you look at their morphologies, when you look also at their syntax, and when you look at the processes, the different linguistic processes, there is no question that these people, they are the same people. But what is happening now in South Africa, Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, Nigerians, Zambians, they are being discriminated against and they are being burnt alive. These, and I look at the languages, I look at Xhosa, I look at Zulu, I look at Kinyarwanda, I look at Kihaya, I look at Tswana, I look at Shona. These languages, you people, you are the same people. Look at your languages. Just about 5,000 or so years ago, 6,000 or so years ago, you were together. You are coming from the same ancestry. Why are you killing your brothers? Why are you killing your sisters? So the other time when I go to different African countries, just visiting, or there's a lecturer, maybe there's a conference, I bring people's attention to the fact, just the reading system, the counting system. I say to them, look, listen, I'm going to say this in my mother tongue, and my mother tongue is Shona. Then I start counting. I say Motsi, Piri, Tatu, China, Chishanu, up to 10. And all of them, they drop their jaws and they say, I can understand what you're saying, but you are saying it differently. And I say, of course, yes, we're the same people. We go to the pronouns, iwe, where you, ini, myself, imi, third person, you. It's like ini, mina, inini. You is iwe, wena, wewe. And the Igbo, them, it's Igbo, bona. That's sort of, and they can understand. These pronouns, they haven't changed. Their lexical items haven't changed. And I'm saying to them, so why are you fighting? Why do you discriminate one against the other? Can you not see? Those are from among you maybe who are into language. Or, languages exist in families, like the Indo-European languages, Germanic languages, Bantu languages, and so on and so forth. And then, so this is the niche from which I want to enter into this very interesting subject of peace. I know at the end of the day, maybe this is not, it doesn't really make, maybe, I don't know to what extent language can be used to bring people together. You are into these matters and you can advise me. And I'll be very pleased if you can add flesh to my niche, or if you can politely, tell me to go and, say, Professor, remain with your languages, please. This is not going to work. I will be very much pleased to hear that. Just I'm saying, I'm very pleased. My brother Abubakar has had this confidence in me, and I think has thrown me at the deep end, and I don't regret it. There is a reason why things happen the way they do, and as I said, I'm spiritual and I believe maybe the Almighty thinks that I can make a contribution from that point of view. I would want to learn from you, like from the previous speaker. I was very impressed. She has facts and she has the figures, who is exporting what, the arms trade and what have you. We also have this problem in Africa that there's a lot of militarization. And I think this militarization is also as a result of the fact that our democracies are fledgling, they're young, and the powers that be, they don't want to leave office. Why? Because it's an opportunity for self-aggrandizement, and this whole chain, linked with corruption, underhand deals, the importation of arms for show off, as well as in readiness to quell any uprisings, which are very likely. You should see, for example, I don't know what it is like elsewhere, if there is any hint of dissent or people wanting to go into the streets, to demonstrate, you will notice that the police, especially the paramilitary police, comes out in full force. And I'm sure the soldiers will be waiting on the wings in the barracks, itching for a fight. So there is, I think there is also a huge importation of cheap arms, second-hand or third-hand or third-hand arms from countries such as China, which I think China doesn't give it, doesn't worry about selling these arms to third world countries, especially the third grade, fifth grade, useless things, but which in Africa are very effective. But all the same, they're not given free of charge. They are bought. And I think, as the previous speaker said, this deprives, people of essential services like medicines, medical care, health care, and all that, while people are spending money on arms, even irritants like tear smoke or tear gas, just to suppress, the citizens of this country. So there's a culture of militarism, to say any nonsense, it will be met with extraordinary force, as if to say, once we show you what we are made of, you will never do it again. We will shoot you if you try any funny tricks. And because they want to remain rooted in power, at whatever cost, and they're spending money on arms and all that, and of course, the armies sometimes it also becomes a conduit, through which the jobless are given jobs. So you'll find that, for example, the armies are much bigger than the threat, whether that is there. And of course, they're trying to get some people off the streets and also buy loyalty to their governments. I could go on and on. I'm a lecturer. I speak for 2 hours non-stop. So let me stop at this. Thank you very much. Thank you, my brother Abubakar. I am done for the meantime. I think I'll hear what the audience is going to say or going to advise. I really look forward, to your advice, and I'm very grateful, that you have listened to what I've said, much of which could have been actually quite nonsensical, but it is very kind of you that you have been able to hold forth. Thank you very much. So thank you, my brother. I am done.
Well, I'm not sure where Mohammed's gone, but I've just had a message in the chat saying, what's the relationship between poverty and militarism? That is an amazing question, and it's a very complex one. Well, it's got some level of complexity and then some level of complete straight to the point, like, we get it. It's very, very clear that on a very simple basis, there was research done by a leading economist called Jeffrey Sachs, who worked out how much he thought it would cost the world to cure the world of poverty each year. And his estimate was around 175 million pounds per year to relieve the whole world of poverty. Now, we can look at that number, 175 million pounds a year, and compare it to some of the military operations. The war in Iraq, which has been deemed completely pointless and actually made the situation a lot worse for the Iraqi peoples, as well as killing hundreds of thousands of people and creating even more chaos. Well, it cost coalition forces over 10 years, around $2 trillion. So we can see that by simply using that money we spent on a pointless war for our, military operations and to promote our military power and strategy and influence in the Middle East, we could have solved world poverty many times for many years. So that's my direct answer to that, for looking at researchers who are specific to that question. And yeah, I think for me, on just a more kind of like spiritual, like personal basis, it is just simply this kind of way we are framing security in our minds to be focused around person-to-person conflict and violence. And therefore, if someone's coming to you with violence, you must respond with violence. That's its own thing. Whereas the actual topic of security, as Professor Francis said, it goes so much further. Peace means that we have peace in our mind, have peace in our homes, have peace in our communities. So it goes far beyond what militarism in any form can offer us. So another question that I've received from Almu, hello, is, do we still need to get prepared for war when we are currently enjoying peace? That's a really interesting question. And it's something that in the UK, at Education, we have a community of modern day peacemakers who vary from people we've met online to students to whoever it is that wants to get involved. And we chat on Discord and on social media. Encourage you all to join us. But the point being, I've been having a conversation with someone recently about this very topic and the fear that demilitarization leads to basically us being open to fire and not having any military defense system to respond to a military threat. And I think that's that's a great way to frame it. It's about thinking about our military threat as a military threat and not an overarching security threat. And by doing that, we can start to proportionately distribute wealth into the security topics which actually affect us all. Like, I'm sure most of you here with us today, like, your security comes from your housing situation, your food situation, the environment, pollution, all these aspects which in completeness make up our peace. And if all of us have that peace, then we can make up a nation of peacemakers and therefore have a peaceful nation. So for me, yeah, it's not so much about, like, yes, we should, in my opinion, we should prepare for military threat because it is a threat, but we shouldn't be letting our arms dealers, our private arms dealers and exporters, basically guide how we do this and accentuate the amount of money that is going into our military threat when it's not going into the other threats like health, environment, housing that we so dearly need to solve.
Can I comment? Can I weigh in there from what you've just said? Do we need to prepare for war if we are enjoying peace? I would like to weigh in very heavily in terms of what you've just said. The short of it is yes. In other words, we're saying if we're having a meal and do we need to prepare for the next meal? Or if we've taken our fill, if you have had our fill, should we worry about the next meal? Yes, because the meal you've just had now is not going to last forever, is it? No. So sometimes actually we can enjoy peace because, people that want to distract us from peace understand that if they want to try any funny tricks, we will be able to answer, accordingly. So even our understanding of human nature, we can actually say, is it possible for somebody who is laughing at the moment, to be angry the next moment? And the answer is yes. Human nature is filled with such vicissitudes. We are unpredictable creatures. This is why we have divorces, for example. This is why we have wars. This is why we have misunderstandings. Today it's like this, the other day it's like that. So our understanding of human nature and the behavior of the human mind should make us prepare for the possibility of war, even when there is peace. So I think, I wouldn't want to belabor that point. I think you've answered it very well. Thank you very much.
I can see Andre Sheldon with the amazing pink bow tie has his hand up. So do you want to ask?
Hello, namaste. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, yes. Well, very nice to be with you. I'm sorry I'm late coming on the webinar. I had some problems this morning. I'm in the United States on the East Coast in the Boston area, and I'm glad to join the conversation. And an important part that you're talking about right now is, should we be prepared for war? And so I have a different take to suggest and propose. I'm a peace activist promoting nonviolence. And so in preparation for war, I propose that we prepare to fight a different way, with civil resistance, not with fighting with arms, but fighting with nonviolence. And there's many, many books about it, the benefits, the studies now from Harvard University about the nonviolence, and that you don't need a big percentage of the people to join in. And I want to use the example of Ukraine. Now the war in Ukraine has become a terrible thing for the whole world. And the people fighting back are to be complimented for their bravery and their courage and the desire for freedom and the effort to try and save their country. But they're also being destroyed. And when the Russians captured the first city that they captured entirely, they issued a curfew. The people couldn't go out at night after 6 o'clock with more than 2 people together. And the whole community said, well, we're not going to abide by that.
Can you charge your phone? Charge your phone. I mean, charge your
Sorry,
phone.
someone's. And so what they proved was that when they went out into the streets at nighttime, they weren't killed. There was a degree of humanity that the Russian soldiers had that prevented them from killing the people. And that had a psychological effect. So that's my proposal, is that we do that we have to train ourselves to be nonviolent,
Go ahead.
to utilize civil resistance, and there's the power. That's what the whole world can do right now, actually, to promote nonviolence everywhere, to say this is enough. So in our own countries, in the United States, we're plagued with violence right now. Nonviolence is the answer. That's my proposal to the group. Thank you.
Okay.
Mohammed, are you with us?
I wanted to ask the same question.
Okay, nice.
I saw that he came back on, but I don't see him now. Yeah, well, I'm not like the host today or anything, but unless there's any other questions or discussions, shall we wrap this up? Mohammed, I'm not sure if you have any other plans.
Excuse me, if I can just come in. I'm asking you and the other people that are also in attendance, what you think about my niche, because I'm someone who is just starting. What advice would you give to me? Should I continue with this, or maybe I should abandon it altogether, or maybe?
I would love to answer this because, well, or give my opinion, because I think it's a brilliant idea. I think we have to find, like, as you said, there's so much false division that happens within our countries. And when we find all these connecting dots and connecting heritage, it's an amazing way to bring people together. And I think what I've learned in just 3.5 years of running demilitarized education is, like, I didn't even really believe it when I started it. I didn't believe in that what we could do, that what we were doing would have an impact that could support world peace. It was too big an idea, and I was like, no, this little thing won't be, this is only one aspect of the global peace movement. So can we even use the word world peace under what we do? And it took time before we were confident enough to be like, no, yeah, we are a part of the world peace movement, and this is therefore how we can define ourselves. And I say this because I've personally been looking and been really interested in the idea of collective manifestation, and how we can actually, just by simply coming together and saying, I want world peace, and I believe that we can achieve world peace, has such powerful impact, because you're actually, imagine if everybody in the world today just stood outside and said, I want world peace and I believe we can have it. That is a projection of what we want as the human race on our own earth. And that really excites me, because there's a lot of spiritual guidance, and beyond that, academic guidance, which does kind of prove that this expression of our needs is how we evolve and how we actually do build things. So thinking about it from the language perspective, I think, yeah, that's exactly, like, definitely keep going. definitely come and ask more specific advice from me, because I know I'm going to support it. And I think any ways we can find, you know, re-establish our relationship with each other is important for the global peace movement.
Oh, I thank you. I thank you very much. I feel very much touched by your encouragement, by your response. This you can be sure of. I will be tracking you and seeking more advice from you, because thank you, because I think peace in the world is something that can be approached from different angles, because I think people the world over, they are persuaded by different angles, by different things, by different what I call it. It's like the dishes we eat. We don't all eat the same dish. While it is food, but we have preferences, and I want to take it from the preference of those that are persuaded by the linguistic diversity of people. And yet within this linguistic diversity, we see a lot of unity, just like we are in terms of how we appear, our appearances, even in terms of gender and what have you. But at the apex of it all, there is one strong connecting factor which binds humanity together in our different races, in our different appearances, our different languages, our different preferences. So I think if others could have taken it from different angles, we cannot all do the same thing, but we are all united in the fact that if we could do whatever it takes to achieve peace in the world, because this tearing apart of humanity is completely thoughtless, and it's callous, it's greed, it's we are like pandering to the best aspect in humanity, that which is base, that which is callous, that which is carnal and completely unacceptable. And I think there's need for this inoculant, you and I, to try as much as we can and plant peace in the whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you, brother.
Sorry for the breaking transmission. I had some little hiccups here with I had some little hiccups with me here. I think I can see Mr. Andrew Sheldon. We acknowledge you, acknowledge your presence. We are glad to see you here. So, from though I'm here, I didn't really partake in what you people said after the break in transmission. But I would like us to look at the issue of militarization from a perspective that will really will be solution driven. I want us to look at that aspect of providing solution to this aspect of militarization in Africa. I want us to look at that the solution. What are those possible solutions we can really key into that we address some of these, like Ms. Jinsela said at the beginning of the beginning of our talk, that there are millions of dollars expended on the military equipment, while there are other pressing issues that need to be dealt with. So I want us to really look at it from the aspect of preferring solutions to some of these menace that's eating deep into the fabric of Africa. So I think I would like to call on Ms.
Well, Mohammed's just frozen for me. I don't know about everybody else. Yeah, same. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think the synopsis question was that what are the solutions to over militarization? Yeah. Well, I can only really plug our organization. Well, no, I can plug many organizations. I'll start with ours, which is Demilitarized Education. In the UK, I'm not sure if we have any international students with us or anyone that's studied in the UK. But if we do, let us know, because what we as I said earlier, what we're creating is a database which basically break down universities' relationships with the arms trade. And this database is being built by everybody, you guys, whoever, students who will come to our community meetups on Discord. We will research and teach you how to research a university's involvement in the arms trade, and then we'll upload it to our university and arms database. What this does is this creates a benchmark where suddenly we can look at different universities and compare them and use this information to pressure and persuade them to sign the Demilitarized Education Treaty, which will be their commitment to breaking their ties with the arms trade and instead championing peace. Now, right now, we are a little baby organization. It's Carmen and I, and we're employing a couple more, like 1 day a week people over the next, couple of weeks. So we're really excited about that. But this means that we're only really, we only have the capacity to support this research in the UK right now. We love to expand. We've got our antennas open. We're ready to like figure out ways in which we can start doing this in other nations. But of course, it takes a deep understanding of the higher education system within that space. So it will take time. But yeah, otherwise, like my main thing, and just reflecting on what Professor Francis said as well, is that there's not one way of building peace or tackling militarism that fits everybody. And I think the key thing and the key bit of advice I would say to everyone is look at your skills and interests. You know, maybe you're into law, maybe you're into the environment and farming, maybe you're into fashion, maybe you are into technology, maybe you just like to socialize, maybe that's your thing, you're just a very social person. Whatever your skill is, you've got to use your passion to then work towards peace. If you're a socializer, then you can start to network and bring people together. If you're into law, then you can start to reach out to organizations like Nuclear Ban, Middle Eastern Organization Against Nuclear Weapons. You can start to help them with their treaty writing. We have a treaty we'd love help with. Basically, there's a whole massive network of peace organizations that will need your help. We're just one of them. So think about what you like doing, because, you know, peace building isn't just like cupcakes and ice cream. It, you know, is a lot of hard work, and you're facing war. Obviously, when I say facing, not in the way that we're actually on the ground, like, no, solidarity to everyone on the ground, but we're facing the issues of war from wherever we are. So it's heavy, right? So you've got to be able to do it in a way which actually makes you happy and builds you up, rather than just kind of like throwing yourself into this really scary and disgusting pit of militarism. So yeah, that's my advice on solutions. There's a way for you to do it that fits you.
Thank you very much for your response. If I can also just come in, I think one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves is to say, why are there conflicts? Why do human beings fight? I think one of the reasons why human beings fight is that they fight for resources. One of the reasons why human beings fight is just out of ego, power, just to show off power and to dominate other people, that base kind of thinking. In Africa, I think one of the problems that we have, why we have these conflicts is poverty. And I think when we're going to look at strategies of how we can minimize conflicts, I don't think it's possible to stop conflicts entirely in this generation or the one to come throughout the world. But I think what we can do is to try as much as we can to reduce the incidence of conflicts. And then we need, therefore, to identify, the root cause of conflicts. And like I'm saying, it's greed, just sheer human greed is at that level. If you look at what is happening in Africa, there's a lot of poverty. If you look at sub-Saharan Africa, for example, it's one of the poorest, regions of the world. And therefore, when you find people going into politics sometimes, it's not really that it's love for their country, a love for is patriotism. No, that's a facade. What they all want is to gate the reins of power and then to be able to control resources for their cronies, for their friends, for their families, and the wider spectrum of their clans and what have you. So one of the things that we must look at, especially in regard to Africa, is to see how, programs that are to do with poverty alleviation can be augmented. There's really need for that, because these people that are going into power and clinging onto power, for ages on end, and changing constitutions, changing their terms of office, it's not for the love of their people, it's for the love of money. This is the truth at the root of it all. So let us identify first and foremost, the causes of these conflicts, and then try and see how, in our own way, we can also alleviate poverty in Africa. I think that is where one of the problems lies, especially in regards to our continent, sub-Saharan Africa, which is the poorest of them all. This is why you have so many people going, out into the diaspora, especially to the UK and the Americas. People are economic refugees. And because this region is very poor, if we can do something, or if the world can do something about it, then the other thing also, which we should never think little about, is to have organizations, to have people like us meet frequently, go back to the drawing board, exchange notes, and see how we can deal with our different situations globally. This is my submission. Thank you very much.
So we seem to have lost Mohammed again. Professor Francis, do you have any other questions you have, or anything you want to say?
No, thank you. Yinsela, is that how I pronounce your name?
Ginsela, yeah.
It's Ginsela.
Like the drink.
Okay, Ginsela. Thank you very much. For your contribution. I really don't. I don't really have much to say, although I'm very talkative. I've heard, what you've said, and also, the other gentleman's contribution. I'm very much encouraged by what you're saying. I wish to grow to the level of conceptualization of peace, to the level where you are, where you have your facts, where you have your figures, and where you have clear strategies, which are measurable in terms of what needs to be done. So I think the idea really is to exchange notes, to strengthen one another, and also to give each other moral support. Otherwise, apart from that, I'm very thankful. I'm very grateful that I've met people like you. I will be making follow-ups, email follow-ups, and I hope to benefit a lot from what you have said and also what the other gentleman has said. Thank you very much, Chinsela.
Thank you. Yeah, I've just put my email in the chat. Please come and talk to us about anything strategy and whatnot, because you're right, we have just been through that, so we're on the strategy boat for sure. Thank you for what you said as well. I'm not joking when I say it really excites me to hear that this is your interest and this is your new niche topic, and I think it does have potential such big power. Because the one other thing I'll just add on to what you're saying about the causes of conflict as well, it's a lot of people, when I say a lot, but there's been some podcasts and research on this idea of leaving the self and becoming something greater. And whereas war is horrible, it is a way for people to become a part of something greater. So finding ways in which we can actually leave the self and become the one, which doesn't involve violence and conflict, is really, really exciting and should be pursued. And like, whether this can happen through language, music, all these natural connectors we have, it's really exciting to know that this is being explored. So get in contact. Look forward to hearing more about your research and developments. So I see Reggie Moore has their hand up. Do you want to quickly ask a question before we go?
No, I joined a little bit late, but I like the topic and the ideas that have been discussed on this platform. But I just want to maybe raise two issues there. Prof, to Prof Matambroka. Prof, where do you place the contribution of geopolitics, especially looking at the various powerful countries in the world, right from the east and also from the west, in terms of their contribution to the conflicts that happen in Africa? That's my first question. Then my other question is the contribution of the liberation struggles which were fought across Africa. Did those liberation struggles not invested a sense of thinking everything through the effect of the gun, that is death, where everything at the aftermath of independence is now seen within the lens of death, where people are now, the leaders in the post-independence period, are now creating the politics of death, what has come to be known as necropolitics and necroeconomics, where it's the economics of death. And seeing this through the lens of death, people revolt against such systems, and conflict begets conflict. Those are the questions that I would want to pose, and at the same time they are more like contributions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marongedze, for those questions, which are very insightful. You are teasing issues apart, which relate directly to the history of Southern Africa and of Africa as a whole. I mean, even from Algeria, the nationalists fighting against France, or for example, like here in Zimbabwe, the nationalists fighting against the Rhodesians, or even also a little bit when you look at the Mau Mau in Kenya, also fighting against British colonial rule. Earlier on, I alluded to the fact that you know they are just wars and they are unjust wars. But whatever it is, whether it's just or unjust, wherever there is the spilling of human blood, this is most unfortunate. Whether it's against the oppressor, whether it's the oppressed whose blood is being spilled, I don't think human beings should kill each other. I don't think human beings are born on this earth so that a pretext is made for them to kill each other. However, I acknowledge the fact that certain conflicts are unavoidable. Like going to the liberation war history, I really feel that these liberation struggles are conflicts, especially when we were unable to negotiate a peaceful settlement, like for example, in the case of Zimbabwe, or in the case of Angola, or in the case of Mozambique, we were left with no choice except to fight. However, here there's a problem. After we became independent as a result of these liberation struggles, armed struggles, we did not realize that we had left the bush and that we were now coming into liberated countries. We continued with that mentality that wherever there is a problem, as you rightly said, if push comes to shove, it will be solved by the cracking of a gun, which I think is completely and entirely wrong. Because now when you look at it, it seems like the whole thing was basically to unseat one type of a ruler and replace him with another type, and where the use of force, is the order of the day. And I think this is where the problem is. So you'll find, for example, often certain things are referred to as operation this, operation this, operation this, like this special operation in Ukraine. What special operation are we talking about here? Like in case of Zimbabwe, 42 years after independence, everything is talked in terms of operations. Wherever there are problems, you'll find that, either the military guys, they just take off, the uniforms of these guys, they take them away from the barracks, and they are put to head parastatals, whether it's Air Zimbabwe or whatever it is. So there's this belief that, the military can solve our problems, but in reality, this is not true. This is not true. Somebody who is trained to kill human beings, to defend a country, does not necessarily make a good, chief executive, say of a sugar refinery, or say of some other, of education, a minister of education. So I think this is where the problem is. We became fossilized in the belief that the gun can achieve everything, which is complete nonsense. It is not true, and this is why we're having some of the problems that we're having today. That erroneous belief that force, through brute force, you can achieve anything which you like. This is not true. It is a lie and it is a fraud. Now, coming to the question of geopolitics, I don't know whether I understood you correctly, but what I think is the global forces will come to your aid because you are in alignment with them. The Chinese are going to come and sell the arms to you because you love them. Whoever is into arms deals, they know what's happening here, and they will come to you. Nobody forces you to be aligned geopolitically or whatever to any force which you do not like. They come to you because you've looked at them with a smile, and they are only responding to who you are. So this is who you are, and you'll get what you want. So I think nations should be able to define who they want to be friends with and for what reason. If you are going to be friends with the devil, then of course you should not, you should not be surprised, if devils, open a thoroughfare to your door, you have invited devils. But if you want to be friends with angels, so angels will come. So geopolitically, you remain who you are and you attract those to whom you belong, because they say birds of the same feathers flock together. So that's it. People should make their choices. No one is forcing anyone to do anything for them. I don't know whether I've understood your question, but there is a law which says like attracts like. Unlike with physics, where you say like poles, don't attract each other, unlike poles attract each other, and like poles repel each other. There's a law in humanity which says like you attract that which you are like, and at that moment, this kind of attraction, it has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with whatever. Look at, for example, at the people that are on the webinar now. These are the people that we're attracted to because we have the same aims. And at this point, our nationalities, our races don't matter. Like attracts like. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I may say something.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead, sir. Oh, I can't hear. Do others hear him? I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we are. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes. I'm sorry. I have to leave in a couple minutes, but and I'll watch the recording to see what I missed in the beginning. But just to finish in regards to like people are attracted by something they like, that my work is about promoting a new global peace movement based on nonviolence, where the people are asked to promote a new narrative of committing to nonviolence and committing to working together for humanity, helping others. And therefore, as Ginsella said earlier, that the people want to be affiliated with something larger than themselves. That's the concept exactly, that if they see the whole world joining in a movement of nonviolence, that they'll want to participate. And there's always the question, what can I do? And there's a type of guideline prepared so that people can look at it. And as Ginsella was saying, find where they fit in, if it's in teaching or in entertainment or in promotions, whatever it is, they'll be able to participate. So thank you for joining. I'd love to stay in contact with you. Thank you for having me speak, rather. And thank you to Mohammed for organizing this. And I'll be in contact with him. But I have your email, Ginsella, and if I'll get yours, Professor, I think it from Mohammed. I'll send him a letter. But I have to go right now. But thank you very much. I love the way you think.
Thank you, Andre, and definitely get in contact.
Yes, I shall.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much as well. I'm also asking for your email, sir, so that I get in touch with you. I've just
yes, I can state it right now because unfortunately my computer was down earlier. It's Andre, ANDRE.
Yes.
At Global Strategy of Nonviolence.
Global Strategy of Nonviolence. Thank you.
.org. O-R-G.
.org. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Peace and love.
You
Okay,
too. You too.
yeah, I reckon we close this whole call off now. Thank you to Mohammed, who isn't here anymore, and thank you to everybody that's been listening. Just peace, love, and solidarity to you all. Reach out if you want to chat about anything. We're always here to chat. And yeah, Professor Francis will definitely speak soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jinsela. Bye-bye. Have a good time.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.